The storm hit Wyoming territory like the fist of an angry god. Eliza Barrett pressed herself against the rough planks of the abandoned barn, rain cutting through her threadbare shawl like ice needles. Her boots, already worn through at the soles, squelched in the mud as she tried to find better shelter from the wind that seemed determined to tear her apart. Lightning split the purple-black sky, illuminating the hostile landscape of sage and rock that stretched endlessly in all directions. She'd been walking for 3 days since the good people of Laramie had run her out of town. The whispers had started the moment she'd stepped off the stagecoach looking for honest work. Whispers about her time at Miss Violet's establishment in Kansas City. Never mind that she'd only scrubbed floors and minded the children of the working women there. Never mind that she'd kept herself pure as Sunday snow. Once folks got a notion in their heads, truth didn't matter much. The barn offered little protection. Half its roof had caved in years ago, and the wind howled through gaps in the walls wide enough to stick her arm through. Eliza huddled in the driest corner she could find, wrapping her arms around her knees. Her stomach had given up growling yesterday. Now it just sat in her belly like a cold stone. Thunder crashed overhead, so close she felt it in her bones. Through the curtain of rain, she spotted movement, a rider on horseback, moving steady despite the storm. The horse picked its way along the muddy track that passed for a road out here, its rider sitting tall and easy in the saddle like he'd been born to it. Eliza shrank back into the shadows. Best to stay hidden. A woman alone in a storm was trouble enough without adding a stranger to the mix. But the rider had already spotted the barn. He turned his mount toward it, and Eliza's heart hammered against her ribs. The man dismounted at the barn's entrance, leading his horse inside. He was tall, had to duck his head to clear the sagging door frame and broad through the shoulders. Water streamed off his oilskin coat and the brim of his hat. When he pushed the hat back, Eliza caught sight of a weathered face, clean-shaven except for a day's worth of stubble, with eyes the color of winter sky. Those eyes found her immediately. "Ma'am," he said, voice low and careful, like he was talking to a spooked horse. "Didn't mean to frighten you." Eliza lifted her chin, trying to look less like a drowned rat and more like a woman with somewhere to be. "I'm not frightened." One corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. "Good, that's good." He studied her for a long moment, taking in her sodden dress, her muddy boots, the way she held herself ready to bolt. "You traveling alone?" "That's my business." "Fair enough." He turned his attention to his horse, a sturdy bay mare who seemed unbothered by the storm. "Name's Jedediah Cross. Jed, mostly. Got a spread about 5 miles north of here." Eliza said nothing. Names led to questions, and questions led to trouble. Hell of a storm. Jed continued, working the saddle loose with practiced movements. "Been building for days. Figured I had time to make it back from town before it hit, but," he shrugged, "weather's got its own mind out here." "I hadn't noticed," Eliza said dryly. This time, he did smile. Just a quick flash before his face settled back into serious lines. "You got a name? Or should I just call you ma'am all night?" "Eliza," she said after a pause. "Just the first name. That was all he needed." "Well, Miss Eliza, I don't suppose you'd object to sharing this shelter storm's not letting up any time soon, and my horse could use the rest." She wanted to say no, wanted to tell him to move along, find another barn, leave her be. But the practical part of her brain, the part that had kept her alive this long, knew better. A man who announced himself and asked permission was likely safer than one who didn't. "It's not my barn to object to," she said. "Suppose that's true." Jed pulled a feed bag from his saddlebags and set about tending his horse. His movements were unhurried, methodical. A man comfortable with silence. Eliza watched him from her corner, cataloging details. His clothes were well mended but not fancy. His boots had seen hard use. The gun at his hip was clean and well oiled, but he hadn't reached for it once. When he spoke to his horse, His voice was gentle. "You got any food?" The question tumbled out before she could stop it. Jed looked over his shoulder. "When's the last time you ate?" Pride warred with hunger. Hunger won. "Day before yesterday, maybe." Without a word, he dug into his saddlebags again and pulled out a cloth-wrapped bundle. "Not much. Some jerky. Hardtack. Couple apples for the horse, but you're welcome to one." He set the bundle on a relatively dry patch of ground between them, then retreated to tend his horse again. Giving her space, letting her choose. Eliza's hands shook as she reached for the food. The jerky was tough and salty, the hardtack like chewing leather, but it was the finest meal she'd had in days. She ate slowly, making it last, aware of Jed not watching her from across the barn. "You running from something or toward something?" he asked eventually. "Neither. Both." She took a small bite of apple, savoring the sweetness. "Does it matter?" "Not particularly. Just making conversation." "Why?" He finished with the horse and settled against the opposite wall, maintaining the careful distance between them. "Been a while since I talked to anyone besides my girls or the livestock. Forget how it's done sometimes." "Girls?" "My daughters, Claire and Emma." His face softened when he said their names. 6 and 3, hell on wheels. Both of them. "Their mother?" Eliza asked, then wished she hadn't. Too personal. "Died 3 years back. Fever took her just after Emma was born." He said it simply, like stating the weather, but his eyes went somewhere distant. "I'm sorry." "Yeah, me too." He tilted his head back against the wall. "Been trying to raise them right, but—" He made a frustrated gesture. "What do I know about raising girls? Claire's starting to ask questions I don't have answers for. And Emma, she needs things I can't give her." The storm raged on outside. Rain hammered the remaining roof, and wind whistled through the gaps. But inside the barn, a strange bubble of calm had formed. "Why are you telling me this?" Eliza asked. Jed was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "You know what folks in town call me the hermit of Cross Creek. Haven't been to a social or a dance since Martha died. Just me, the girls, and a couple hired hands who don't live on the property." He met her eyes. "Gets lonely, gets hard. And those girls, they deserve better than a father who doesn't know the first thing about braiding hair or mending doll clothes. Plenty of men raise children alone." "True enough. But I look at my girls and I see gaps. Empty spaces where a mother's touch should be. Claire's trying so hard to be grown, taking care of Emma, taking care of me. No 6-year-old should carry that weight." Eliza pulled her shawl tighter, though it did little good. "Why are you telling me this?" she repeated. "Because you're running from something. Because you've got that look like the world's been kicking you and you're about ready to kick back." He leaned forward slightly. "Because I think maybe we could help each other." Her laugh was bitter. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you're alone. I know you're hungry. I know you're too proud to beg, but too smart to starve." His voice stayed steady, reasonable. "And I know winter's coming. Wyoming winter's no joke. Miss Eliza, it'll kill you sure as a bullet if you're not prepared." "So, what are you proposing?" The words came out sharper than intended. "Simple. I need help with my girls. Someone to be there when I'm working the ranch. Someone to teach them things I can't. Cook meals. Keep house. Be present." He paused. "In exchange, you get a roof over your head, food in your belly, and wages besides. Respectable work. All above board." Eliza's mind raced. It sounded too good, too simple. There was always a catch. "And what else?" "What else what?" "What else would you expect? Men don't offer charity without expecting something in return." His face hardened slightly. "I'm not that kind of man. Miss Eliza, won't pretend I'm a saint, but I've never taken anything from a woman that wasn't freely given. Not about to start now." Easy words. True words. He stood slowly, carefully, telegraphing his movements. Look, I'm not asking for an answer tonight. Storm should break by morning. You can ride back with me, meet the girls, see the place. If it doesn't suit, I'll take you wherever you want to go. Pay for the stage ticket myself if need be. Why? The word was almost a whisper. Why would you do that? He considered the question seriously. Because my Martha would have wanted me to, because those girls need more than I can give them alone. Because, he paused, choosing his words. Because I think you need this as much as we do. Maybe more. Eliza felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back furiously. She'd cried enough tears lately. You don't know what people say about me. Don't much care what people say. Never have. He pulled a bedroll from his saddle. Here. Ground's hard, but this'll help some. I'll stay over here with the horse. I didn't say yes. Didn't say no either. He spread his own blanket near his horse. Think about it. That's all I ask. The storm continued its assault on the barn. Eliza wrapped herself in the bedroll. It smelled of leather and wood smoke and something indefinably male, and tried to think clearly. The sensible thing would be to refuse. Keep running. Trust no one. But she was so tired of running, so tired of being hungry and cold and alone. And there was something about this man, his careful distance, his plain speaking, the way his eyes went soft when he talked about his daughters. What did she die of? She asked suddenly. Your wife. What kind of fever? Childbed fever. Doctor said it happens sometimes. Nothing anyone could have done. His voice was steady, but she heard the old grief underneath. I'm sorry, she said again, meaning it this time. What about you? He asked. You ever been married? No, the lie came automatically. Then, surprising herself. Almost, once. But he found out where I'd been working and... She shrugged. Changed his mind quick enough. His loss. Pretty words. Mr. Cross. Just Jed, and I mean it. He shifted, getting comfortable. Get some sleep. Miss Eliza. Morning'll come soon enough. But sleep didn't come easily. Eliza lay in the dark, listening to the storm and the steady breathing of man and horse. Her mind churned over his offer. It could be salvation or damnation. No way to know which until she took the leap. Sometime in the small hours, the wind began to die. The rain softened from assault to patter, and Eliza made her choice. Jed, she called softly. Yeah, this place of yours, it's really 5 miles north. Give or take. And you really just need help with the girls, nothing else. Nothing else unless you offer it. And maybe not even then. I'm not looking to complicate things. She took a deep breath. Then I'll come. See the place. Meet your daughters. No promises beyond that. Fair enough. And if people talk, if they find out about where I've been, then they'll have to talk to me about it. His voice carried quiet steel. I don't abandon people who work for me. Miss Eliza, ask anyone who knows me. I stand by my own. The words sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. How long since anyone had claimed her as their own? All right then, she whispered. All right then, he echoed. Outside, the storm was breaking. Soon there would be dawn, and decisions made in darkness would face the light. But for now, Eliza pulled the borrowed bedroll tight and let herself believe, just for a moment, that salvation might wear the face of a lonely rancher and 2 motherless girls. The last thing she heard before sleep finally claimed her was Jed's voice, soft in the darkness. It's going to be all right, Miss Eliza. You'll see. She wanted to believe him. God help her. She wanted to believe. The Cross Ranch house squatted on the prairie like a weathered old soldier standing guard, built of timber and stone. It had the solid, no-nonsense look of a place meant to last. Smoke curled from the chimney into the crystal-clear morning sky, and somewhere a rooster announced the new day with authority. Eliza shifted nervously on the wagon seat beside Jed. The 5-mile journey from the barn had passed mostly in silence, broken only by Jed pointing out landmarks. Devil's Rock, where lightning struck twice in one storm, the creek that gave the ranch its name, the spot where Shoshone traders sometimes camped. "Home," Jed said simply as they rolled into the yard. Before Eliza could respond, the front door burst open. A small figure in a nightgown came flying down the steps, bare feet slapping against the packed earth. Papa, you're back." Jed swung down from the wagon and caught the child. "Claire," Eliza realized, lifting her high. "Morning, sunshine. What are you doing outside without shoes?" "I was watching for you from the window. Mrs. Holbrook said you'd be back by breakfast, and I wanted to—" Claire's words died as she noticed Eliza. Dark eyes, serious as a judge, studied the stranger on the wagon seat. "Claire, this is Miss Eliza. She's come to help us out for a while." Jed set his daughter down gently. "Miss Eliza, this is Claire, my eldest." Claire didn't smile, didn't speak, just stared with those too old eyes in that too young face. "Hello, Claire," Eliza said softly. "It's nice to meet you. Are you going to be our new mother?" The question came blunt as a hammer blow. "Claire," Jed's voice carried warning. "That's what Jimmy Patterson said. His PA said you went to town to find us a new mother 'cause we're running wild as heathens." Claire's chin jutted out defiantly. "We're not heathens. I read the Bible to Emma every night, just like Mama used to." Eliza climbed down from the wagon carefully, aware of the child's scrutiny. "I'm not here to be anyone's mother. I'm here to help with cooking and cleaning and such. That's all." Claire considered this. "Can you make Johnny cakes?" "I can." "Oh, with molasses." "If you have molasses, yes. Mama used to make them with molasses." It wasn't approval. Exactly. But the hostility dimmed slightly. "Emma's still sleeping. She wets the bed sometimes and gets embarrassed, so don't say nothing about it if she does." "Claire," Jed said quietly, "why don't you go get dressed? Tell Mrs. Holbrook we're back." The child gave Eliza one more measuring look before scampering back to the house. Jed watched her go with a mixture of love and worry. She's protective of Emma, of this place, been the lady of the house since she was 3 years old. He gathered the reins. "Come on, I'll show you around." The house was larger than it looked from outside. The main room served as both parlor and dining room, with a stone fireplace dominating one wall. The furniture was simple but well made. A table that could seat 6, chairs with carved backs, a rocking chair by the fire that must have been Martha's. Everything was clean but had that not quite right look of a house kept by people who didn't know the little touches that made a home. A large woman emerged from what must be the kitchen, wiping floury hands on her apron. "About time you got back. Jed cross? I was starting to think—" "Oh." She stopped short, seeing Eliza. "Mrs. Holbrook, this is Eliza Barrett. She's agreed to help with the girls and the house. Miss Eliza, Mrs. Holbrook helps out when she can." "Mrs." Holbrook's eyes narrowed slightly, taking Eliza's measure in one sweeping glance. "That's so well. Lord knows these children need steady looking after. Can't keep running over here every time you need to go to town." "I appreciate all you've done," Jed said diplomatically. "Humph." Mrs. Holbrook untied her apron. "Emma's still abed. There's porridge on the stove and bread in the box. Girl doesn't look like she's eaten proper in a month." Heat flooded Eliza's cheeks, but she held her tongue. "Mrs." Holbrook gathered her things with the efficiency of long practice. "Now, I'll be back end of the week to see how things are going," she announced, and Eliza heard the warning in it. Then, to Jed, "You sure about this?" "I am." "On your head be it, then." She swept out, leaving a wake of disapproval. Jed sighed. "She means well. Been helping since Martha died. Just set in her ways." She doesn't approve of me. She doesn't approve of much. Don't take it personal. He gestured toward the kitchen. Hungry? The kitchen was the heart of the house, a big warm room with a cook stove that radiated welcome heat, shelves lined with preserves and dry goods, and windows that looked out over the prairie. Eliza felt something in her chest loosen. This she understood. This she could work with. Papa, a small voice from the doorway. Eliza turned to see a miniature version of Claire, all dark curls and solemn eyes, clutching a rag doll that had seen better days. This must be Emma. Morning, little bird. Jed scooped the child up, and she burrowed into his shoulder. Sleep good. Emma nodded against his neck, but her eyes stayed fixed on Eliza. This is Miss Eliza. Jed said carefully, she's going to stay with us and help out. Hello, Emma, Eliza said gently. Emma didn't respond, just pressed closer to her father, over the child's head. Jed gave Eliza an apologetic look. She's shy with strangers. Might take her a bit to warm up. Claire appeared, now properly dressed in a calico frock that was getting too short for her. I can make breakfast, she announced. I always make breakfast. That's very helpful of you, Eliza said carefully. Would you mind if I helped? I'd like to learn how you do things here. Claire looked suspicious. You don't know how to make porridge. I know how I make it, but everyone does things a little different. I'd like to learn your way. It was the right thing to say. Claire's posture relaxed fractionally. Well, I suppose that would be all right, but you got to stir it right or it gets lumpy. I hate lumpy porridge, Eliza agreed solemnly. What followed was a careful dance. Claire showed Eliza where everything was kept, how much porridge to make, how Papa liked his coffee black with just a little sugar, not too much, how Emma would only eat if her spoon was the one with the bent handle. Eliza listened and learned and didn't try to change anything. Emma watched from her father's arms, silent as a little ghost. They ate breakfast together at the big table. Claire chattered about the ranch cats and her lessons, and how Jimmy Patterson was a stupid boy who didn't know anything. Emma picked at her porridge and stole glances at Eliza when she thought no one was looking. Jed ate steadily and answered his eldest daughter's stream of questions with patient attention. It was achingly familiar and utterly foreign at the same time. After breakfast, Jed headed out to check on the stock, leaving Eliza with the girls. Claire immediately took charge. Emma needs to get dressed. Then we do lessons. I'm teaching her letters, but she's not very good yet, 'cause she's only 3. Then we feed the chickens and gather eggs. Then... Claire, Eliza interrupted gently. What would you like to do today? The question seemed to confuse the child. What do you mean? I mean, besides the things that have to be done, the chickens and such, what would you enjoy doing? Claire frowned. We do what needs doing. That's what Papa says. Work first, then rest. 6 years old and already carrying the weight of the world? Eliza's heart ached. Well, how about this? We'll do the necessary things, but maybe we can make them a little more fun. Would that be all right? How? Let me think on it while we get Emma dressed. Getting Emma dressed was its own challenge. The child submitted to Eliza's help but wouldn't speak, wouldn't smile, wouldn't give any indication she was anything but a small, breathing doll. Her little dress was clean but mended in several places, and her shoes were getting too small. There's a general store in town, Eliza asked Claire. McMurdy's? But Papa doesn't like going to town much. Too many busybodies, he says. Eliza filed that away. What about fabric? Does anyone around here sell fabric? Mrs. Chen does. She's got a place about 2 miles east. Makes the prettiest things. But Papa says we can't afford pretty things right now. The morning revealed a household held together by routine and a 6-year-old's determination. Claire had taken on the role of little mother with frightening competence. She could cook simple meals, knew everyone's preferences, and managed Emma with a combination of firmness and love that spoke of too much practice. Emma remained silent, but began following Eliza with her eyes, tracking her movements around the house like a wary cat. The house itself told its own story. Martha's touches were everywhere, in the quilts on the beds, the curtains at the windows, the carefully tended garden plot now going to seed. But dust gathered in corners, and there was a general air of slow decay that spoke of grief allowed to settle too deep. When Jed came in for lunch, he found Eliza and the girls in the kitchen. Claire was showing Eliza her primer while Emma sat under the table with her doll, humming tunelessly. "How's it going?" he asked carefully. "We're getting acquainted," Eliza replied. "Claire's been very helpful showing me how things are done." "I told her about the bent spoon," Claire reported, "and how Emma won't eat carrots unless they're mashed up real small." "That's good." Jed washed his hands at the pump. "What's for lunch?" "Beans and cornbread." Claire said, "Miss Eliza helped, but I did most of it." Over lunch, Eliza watched the family dynamics play out. Jed was gentle with both girls, but seemed unsure how to bridge the gap between father and mother roles. Claire filled the silence with chatter, but it had a desperate edge, as if she feared what might fill the quiet. Emma ate in silence, occasionally offering her doll a bite. "Miss Eliza," Claire said suddenly, "where did you come from?" "Claire," Jed warned. "It's all right," Eliza said. "I came from Kansas. Before that, Missouri." "Why did you leave?" How to answer that? Sometimes people need a fresh start, a new place to call home. "Did you have a family there?" "No, no family." Claire digested this. "That's sad. Everyone should have family." "Well, now she's here to help our family," Jed said firmly. "That's what matters." But Claire wasn't done. "Jimmy Patterson's mother said—" "I don't care what Jimmy Patterson's mother said," Jed interrupted. "We don't repeat gossip in this house." Claire subsided, but Eliza caught the look she gave her, calculating, protective, older than her years. After lunch, while Jed returned to his work, Eliza tackled the pile of mending that had accumulated. Claire sat beside her, practicing her letters on a slate, while Emma played near their feet. "You sew real neat," Claire observed, watching Eliza's small, even stitches. "Thank you. My mother taught me when I was about your age." "Where's your mother now?" "She died long time ago." "Oh." Claire was quiet for a moment. "My mama died too, but not a long time ago." "I'm sorry. Papa says she's in heaven watching over us." "Do you think that's true?" Eliza chose her words carefully. "I think the people who love us never really leave us. They stay in our hearts." "Emma doesn't remember her," Claire said quietly. "I try to tell her stories so she won't forget. But she was just a baby when—" She trailed off. "That's a very loving thing to do." "Someone has to—" The words carried weight beyond the child's years. That evening, as Eliza prepared supper, she noticed Emma standing in the doorway, watching her. "Would you like to help?" Eliza asked softly. Emma shook her head but didn't leave. "That's all right. You can just watch if you'd like." Eliza continued working, humming quietly as she mixed biscuit dough. After a few minutes, she heard small footsteps cross the floor. Emma climbed onto a chair at the table, still clutching her doll. "Your doll looks hungry," Eliza observed. "Should we make her a special biscuit?" Emma's eyes widened slightly. She didn't speak, but she nodded. Eliza pinched off a tiny piece of dough and shaped it into a miniature biscuit. There, just her size. For the first time, Emma smiled, just a flash, there and gone, but real. When Jed came in for supper, he found his daughters at the table with Eliza. Claire chattering about her day while Emma carefully fed pretend bites to her doll from the tiny baked biscuit. "Smells good in here," he said, and Eliza caught something in his voice. "Relief hope." Biscuits and gravy. Claire announced. And Emma helped. Well, she watched. But that's helping too. Indeed it is. Jed ruffled Emma's curls, and she leaned into his touch. They ate by lamplight as shadows gathered outside. It was a simple meal, but well-cooked and filling. Jed cleaned his plate and accepted seconds, which seemed to please Claire enormously. "See," she told Eliza. "I said Papa was always hungry. Mama used to say he had a hollow leg." "Your mama was probably right," Jed said with a small smile. After supper, Claire insisted on showing Eliza the bedtime routine, Emma's nightgown, the wash basin, the way their prayers were said. Eliza observed it all. Seeing how Claire had built scaffolding of routine to hold back chaos. "Mama used to sing," Claire said as they tucked Emma in. "But I don't remember all the words." "What did she sing?" "Something about angels and watching." Eliza thought for a moment. "All night, all day, angels watching over me." Claire's face lit up. "Yes, that's it. Do you know it?" So Eliza sang, her voice soft in the lamplight room. Emma's eyes grew heavy, and even Claire's perpetual vigilance seemed to ease. When the song ended, both girls were nearly asleep. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Claire asked drowsily. "Yes." "Promise." Eliza hesitated. Promises were dangerous things, but looking at these two motherless girls, she found herself saying, "I promise." Later, after both children slept, Eliza found Jed on the porch, smoking his pipe and watching the stars. "They're good girls," she said, settling on the step below him. "They are." He was quiet for a moment. "Claire sang Emma to sleep every night for months after Martha died. Broke my heart hearing that little voice trying to remember the words. She's been trying to be their mother." "I know, and I let her. God help me. Didn't know what else to do." He tapped his pipe against the rail. "It was good. Hearing you sing tonight, natural-like." They sat in comfortable silence, the night sounds of the prairie around them. Finally, Jed stirred. "Your room's ready. It's not much. Used to be Martha's sewing room. But it's private, and the bed's good." "Thank you." "No, Miss Eliza, thank you." He stood. "I'll see you in the morning." Alone in the little room. Eliza unpacked her few possessions. The bed was indeed good, with clean sheets that smelled of lavender. Martha's touch again, lingering like a gentle ghost. Through the thin walls, she heard Jed moving about, checking locks, banking the fire, the ordinary sounds of a household settling for the night. When had she last heard such sounds? She thought about Claire's fierce protectiveness, Emma's silent watchfulness, Jed's careful hope. They were all walking wounded. These three, held together by necessity and habit more than healing. Well, she knew something about being wounded. Maybe that qualified her for this after all. As sleep took her, Eliza heard Emma cry out, a nightmare. Perhaps, she heard Claire's voice, soothing, and Jed's heavier tread in the hallway, a family tending to itself in the dark. Tomorrow she would learn more of their rhythms, their needs, their carefully guarded hearts. Tomorrow she would try again to earn Emma's trust and ease Claire's burden. Tomorrow she would begin the slow work of helping this household remember how to be a home. But tonight, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Eliza Barrett fell asleep to the sound of other people living their lives around her. It was strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. She was not alone. The unfinished quilt haunted the corner of the parlor like a colorful ghost. Eliza had been at the Cross Ranch for 2 weeks when she found it, tucked away in a cedar chest beneath layers of winter blankets. The pattern was intricate, a wedding ring design in blues and greens and soft yellows. Martha's work, obviously. The tiny, perfect stitches spoke of patience and love and long winter evenings by the fire. "Mama was making that for Emma's bed," Claire said from the doorway, startling Eliza. The child had a way of appearing silently, watchful as a cat. She said every girl needs something beautiful to dream under. Eliza ran her fingers over the fabric. Half finished, waiting. It's lovely work. She never got to finish it. Claire's voice was matter-of-fact, but Eliza caught the tremor underneath. Papa put it away after, said it hurt too much to look at. And now? Claire shrugged with studied indifference. Papa doesn't come in here much. Too busy with the ranch. Eliza studied the quilt, seeing the hours of work already invested. The promise of beauty interrupted. Would you like to learn how to work on it? Claire's eyes widened. Papa wouldn't like it. We could ask him. He'll say no. He always says no about Mama's things. But Eliza had learned something about Jed Cross in her short time here. He said no reflexively, protectively, but could be reasoned with if approached right. That evening, after the girls were abed, she brought the subject up carefully. A quilt's meant to be used, she said, after explaining about finding Martha's work. Seems a shame to let all that effort go to waste. Jed stared into his coffee cup like it might hold answers. Martha spent hours on that thing, humming while she worked, happy. His voice roughened. Can't hardly bear to see it. What if you didn't have to? What if Claire and I worked on it during the days? Put it away when you're home. Claire, he looked up sharply. She's too young for such fine work. She's the same age Martha was when she learned. I'd wager, and she needs... Eliza searched for the right words. She needs something of her mother's that isn't about loss, something about creating, continuing. Jed was quiet so long, Eliza thought he'd refuse. Then, if Claire wants to learn, and you're willing to teach her, I suppose it'd be all right. So began the quilt lessons, every afternoon, while Emma napped. Eliza and Claire would spread the quilt frame in the parlor and work. Claire's fingers were clumsy at first, her stitches too large and uneven. It looks terrible, she said, near tears after her first attempt. My first stitches looked like a drunk chicken had done them, Eliza said mildly. My mother made me pick them all out and start over. Really? Really. But she also said something I never forgot. Perfect stitches make a pretty quilt, but it's the love in them that makes it warm. Claire bent back to her work with renewed determination. As the days passed, her stitches grew smaller, more even, more importantly. She began to talk while they worked, not the desperate chatter that filled silence, but real conversation. Mama used to tell stories while she sewed, Claire said one afternoon, about when she was little, back in Missouri. What kind of stories? About the farm where she grew up. Her PA raised horses. She said she could ride before she could walk proper. Claire smiled, lost in memory. She taught me to ride on her mare, Buttercup. Papa sold Buttercup after... That must have been hard. Papa sold a lot of things, said we needed the money more than memories. Claire's voice turned bitter. But I remember Buttercup. She had the softest nose, and she'd whicker whenever she saw me coming with apples. Emma, who had taken to playing quietly near them during sewing time, looked up from her doll. Horsey, she said, one of the few words she'd spoken in Eliza's presence. Yes, baby, Claire said gently. Mama's Horsey. You were too little to remember. That evening, Eliza found Jed in the barn, mending tack. Claire told me about Buttercup today. His hands stilled on the leather. Did she now? She misses the mare. We all miss a lot of things. But his voice lacked its usual finality. After a moment, he added, Martha loved that horse. Brought her all the way from Missouri when we married. Said a woman needed at least one friend in a new place. Sounds like a wise woman. She was. He resumed his work. Maybe too wise for the likes of me. I never could figure out what she saw in a rough cowhand with more dreams than sense. Eliza settled on a hay bale. How did you meet? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Her father hired me to break horses. I was 19, full of vinegar and stupid pride. Took one look at her coming out of the house in a yellow dress and fell right off the horse I was working. He shook his head. She laughed, but not mean-like, just delighted, like I'd done something wonderful instead of embarrassing. And she married you anyway? Took some convincing. Her father had bigger plans for her than a hired hand, but Martha had a way of getting what she wanted without anyone quite realizing it. His smile faded. I should have given her more. Better. Seems to me she got exactly what she wanted, Eliza said softly. A man who still speaks of her with such love years later, that's worth more than all the fancy houses in Missouri. Jed looked at her then, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. You always know just what to say. Hardly. I know something about regret, how it can eat at you if you let it. Speaking from experience. It was Eliza's turn to look away. We all have our ghosts, Mr. Cross. Jed, he corrected automatically. You've been here near 3 weeks. Think you can call me Jed by now. That night, Eliza dreamed of yellow dresses and young cowboys falling from horses, but underneath the sweetness was something darker, her own memories pushing up like weeds through good soil. The narrow room above Miss Violet's establishment, the smell of cheap perfume and cigar smoke, the constant awareness of what went on in the rooms around her, even as she kept herself apart, untouched. She woke with tears on her cheeks and Claire standing by her bed. Small face worried in the moonlight. You were crying, Claire whispered. Bad dream. Yes, sweetheart, just a bad dream. I have them too sometimes. About Mama. Claire hesitated, then climbed onto the bed, curling against Eliza's side like a kitten seeking warmth. Papa says it's all right to be sad sometimes. Your papa's a wise man. Will you sing like you do for Emma? So Eliza sang, soft and low, until Claire's breathing deepened into sleep. She stayed awake longer, feeling the child's trust like a weight and a gift combined. Through the window, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small human dramas below. The next day brought unexpected visitors. Eliza was in the garden, trying to save what she could of Martha's vegetables before the killing frost, when she heard horses approaching. Claire, who'd been helping, went rigid. That's Mrs. Patterson's buggy, she said, and Mrs. Adler, and... Oh no, that's Reverend Mills. Eliza's stomach clenched. A delegation. Nothing good ever came from delegations. Run tell your father, she said calmly. I'll greet them. But Claire grabbed her hand. Don't let them take us away. What? Jimmy Patterson said his ma thinks Papa shouldn't be raising us alone. Said it ain't proper. Eliza squeezed the small hand. No one's taking anyone anywhere. Now go get your father, quickly. The delegation had descended from their vehicles by the time Eliza reached the front of the house. Mrs. Patterson, a woman who seemed to be made entirely of disapproving angles, led the charge. You must be the woman Jedediah hired, she said, making woman sound like something scraped off a boot. I'm Miss Barrett. Yes. How can I help you? We've come to speak to Mr. Cross about the children's welfare. This from Reverend Mills, a thin man with kind eyes that didn't quite meet Eliza's. There are concerns. What kind of concerns? Jed's voice came from behind Eliza. He'd appeared with his usual quiet suddenness, Claire peering around him. Mrs. Patterson drew herself up. Jedediah Cross, you know perfectly well it's not proper, having an unmarried woman of uncertain background, living in your house with impressionable children. Miss Barrett is employed as housekeeper and governess, Jed said evenly. Nothing improper about it. But her history, Mrs. Adler began. What history would that be? Jed's voice had gone dangerously soft. Because, near as I can tell, Miss Barrett's history is her own business. She worked in a house of ill repute. Mrs. Patterson burst out, "In Kansas, my cousin lives in Dodge City and recognized her name when I mentioned it in a letter." Eliza felt the blood drain from her face. Beside her, she sensed Claire's confusion, the child's quick mind trying to parse the adult implications. "Did your cousin also mention that Miss Barrett worked as a maid and childminder?" Jed asked. "That she never participated in the business of the house, or did your cousin leave that part out?" The delegation exchanged glances. Reverend Mills cleared his throat. "Even so, the appearance of impropriety." "Reverend." Jed cut him off. "Didn't Jesus himself say something about casting stones? Seems to me you should be more concerned with charity than gossip." "We're concerned for the children," Mrs. Adler said. "Little girls need proper female guidance." "Which they're getting," Jed said firmly. "Miss Barrett has been nothing but good for my girls." Claire's smiling again. "Emma's starting to talk. That's all that matters to me." "But what will people say, Mrs. Patterson pressed?" "Don't much care what people say. Never have." Jed stepped forward slightly, and the delegation stepped back. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we have work to do. Good day." It wasn't quite a retreat, but it was close. As the buggy rolled away, Eliza heard Mrs. Patterson say something about stubborn fools and "mark my words." Claire tugged on Eliza's skirt. "What's a house of ill repute?" Eliza's heart sank, but Jed answered before she could. "It's a place where people aren't always kind to each other, but Miss Eliza was kind there, taking care of children who needed her, just like she takes care of you and Emma." Claire considered this. So they're mad because she was kind in the wrong place. Something like that. "That's stupid," Claire declared. And despite everything, Eliza found herself smiling. That night, after the girls were asleep, Eliza found Jed on the porch again. She sat beside him without asking, too tired for propriety. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for what you said." Meant every word. He was quiet for a moment. "Is that why you left Kansas, the gossip?" "Among other reasons." She wrapped her shawl tighter. "The owner, he had ideas about expanding my duties. When I refused, he made it impossible to stay." Jed's jaw tightened. "Man like that needs a lesson in manners." "Man like that owns the law in 3 counties." She laughed bitterly. "Charles Whitlow doesn't take no for an answer. Just delays until he gets his way." "Charles Whitlow." Jed turned to look at her. Tall fellow, thin mustache, gambler's hands. "You know him." "Met him once in Cheyenne. Didn't like him then." He paused. "He dangerous." "Not in the way you mean. He's too smart for outright violence, but he has ways of making life difficult." They sat in silence, listening to the night sounds. Finally, Jed spoke. "You need to know something. I won't let them drive you off. Not the town gossips. Not this Whitlow fellow if he shows up. You've been good for this family. That's all that matters." Eliza felt tears prick her eyes. "You hardly know me." "Know enough. Know you sing my babies to sleep and teach Claire to smile while she sews. Know you brought light back into this house." He stood abruptly. "That's enough for me." After he went inside, Eliza stayed on the porch, watching stars and thinking about kindness in wrong places, about ghosts and quilts and little girls who worried about being taken away, about a man who defended her without question, who spoke of his dead wife with reverence but looked at Eliza sometimes like she was water in the desert. Inside, she heard Emma cry out, another nightmare, heard Claire's voice, soothing, and Jed's heavier tread checking on them. The sounds of a family. She thought about the quilt upstairs, half-finished but growing daily, about threads connecting past and present, about patterns emerging from chaos, about the possibility that broken things might be mended, not to what they were, but to something new and perhaps even beautiful. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The town gossips wouldn't give up easily. and somewhere out there. Charles Whitlow was likely nursing his wounded pride and planning his next move. But tonight, Eliza Barrett sat on the porch of a house where she was wanted, where her past was known but not held against her, where two little girls were learning to trust her with their hearts. It was more than she dared hope for. It was almost enough to make her believe in second chances. Almost. The stranger rode into town on a Tuesday, dust devils dancing in his wake. Eliza noticed him first through McMurdy's store window, a well-dressed man on a fine black horse, the kind of man who looked like money even covered in trail dust, her hand stilled on the bolt of calico she'd been examining, ice sliding down her spine. Charles Whitlow, even after 3 months. She'd have known that aristocratic profile anywhere. "Miss Eliza," Claire tugged at her sleeve. "You've gone all pale." "It's nothing, sweetheart." Eliza forced her hands to resume their motion, though the fabric might have been burlap for all she noticed now. "Just thought I saw someone I knew." Through the window, she watched Whitlow dismount at the hotel, his movements precise and economical. He hadn't seen her. Yet. "Can we get the blue ribbon?" Emma asked, the most words she'd strung together in public since Eliza's arrival. "For my dolly." "Of course." Eliza turned from the window, marshalling a smile. "Blue ribbon for your doll. And what else did we need, Claire? Where's our list?" They finished their shopping with Eliza fighting the urge to flee. Every time the door opened, her heart hammered. But Whitlow didn't appear, and they made it back to the wagon unmolested. "Papa," Claire called as they rolled into the ranch yard. "We're back." Jed emerged from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag. His smile faltered when he saw Eliza's face. "Girls, take the packages inside," he said. "Miss Eliza and I need to check something with the horses." Once the children were gone, he stepped closer. "What's wrong?" "Charles Whitlow. He's in town." Jed's expression hardened. "You're sure?" "I'd know him anywhere." She wrapped her arms around herself despite the warm afternoon. "He'll have tracked me here. He's patient like that. Lets you think you're free, then appears when you've started to feel safe." "What does he want?" "Me. I was his prize asset at the house. Young, educated, untouched. He had plans." She shuddered. "When I refused and ran, I hurt his pride." Men like him don't forget that. Jed was quiet for a moment, thinking, "We need to go back to town." "What? No, I need to leave. Tonight, before he what comes here threatens you." Jed's voice was calm but firm. "Running won't solve this. Eliza, men like him are like wolves. They chase what runs." "Then what do you suggest?" "We face him, together, in public." He met her eyes. "Trust me." She wanted to say no. Every instinct screamed to pack her few belongings and disappear into the prairie night. But looking at this man who'd defended her without question, who'd given her a home and purpose and 2 little girls to love. "All right," she whispered. They returned to town that very afternoon. Jed insisted on it. "Better to choose our ground," he said. Eliza wore her best dress, the green one she'd made from fabric misses. Chen had traded for mending work. Jed wore his church clothes. They looked, Eliza thought with bitter amusement, like a respectable couple out for an afternoon. The town square was busy with the usual Tuesday market crowd, farmers' wives selling eggs and butter, children darting between the stalls, old men playing checkers outside the barber shop. Normal, peaceful, safe. Until Whitlow emerged from the hotel. He'd cleaned up, traded trail clothes for a pearl gray suit that probably cost more than most folks here saw in a year. His eyes found Eliza immediately, and his smile was a knife wrapped in silk. "Eliza, my dear girl, what a pleasant surprise." "Mr. Whitlow." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "You know this man?" Jed asked, though of course he knew the answer. "Oh, Eliza and I are old friends." Whitlow's pause was deliberate. Waited. From Kansas, I've been quite worried about her. She left so suddenly without a word." "Miss Barrett's comings and goings are her own business," Jed said evenly. Whitlow's eyes flicked to him, dismissive. "And you are—" "Jedediah Cross. Miss Barrett works for me." "Works for you?" Whitlow's smile widened. "How familiar. Tell me, Mr. Cross, do you know what kind of work dear Eliza did in Kansas?" The square had gone quiet. Eliza felt eyes on them from every direction. This was what Whitlow did, destroyed reputations with implications and half-truths, all while keeping his own hands clean. "I know she tended children and kept house," Jed said clearly, his voice carrying, "I know she worked honest despite the dishonest place she found herself. And I know she left when the owner of that establishment tried to force her into work she didn't choose." Whitlow's smile faltered slightly. "Force is such a strong word. I merely suggested that a woman of Eliza's talents was wasted on menial labor." "No, you tried to make me a commodity," Eliza said, finding her voice at last. "When I refused, you threatened to spread lies about me to every respectable employer in Kansas." "Lies?" Whitlow spread his hands. "My dear, I never lie. I merely share information. Speaking of which," he turned to address the growing crowd, "I feel it's my duty to warn you all. This woman lived in a house of prostitution, walked those halls daily. One has to wonder what corruption might have taken root." "Enough." Jed stepped forward. "You want to sling mud? Let's talk about why you're really here. Let's talk about a man who follows a woman across 3 territories because she had the gall to say no to him. I'm concerned for her welfare. You're concerned for your pride." Jed's voice cut like a blade. "A man who truly cared for a woman's welfare wouldn't chase her down like a hunted animal. Wouldn't try to destroy her reputation because she wouldn't warm his bed." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Patterson looked ready to faint. Whitlow's face darkened. "How dare you?" "I dare because it's true. You're nothing but a well-dressed predator who preys on women with no protection." Jed moved closer, and Whitlow stepped back instinctively. "Well, Eliza has protection now. Me, my family, this town." "This town," Whitlow laughed. "These small-minded fools who've already shunned her. Not all of us." The voice came from behind them. "Mrs." Chen stepped forward, chin high. "Miss Eliza has been nothing but kind since she arrived. She helps anyone who asks, never gossips, works hard. She taught my Amy to read when the school said she was too slow." This from Tom Baker, the blacksmith. "Wouldn't take payment neither. Fixed my Ruth's doll when it got torn." Another voice from the crowd. "Ruth ain't stopped talking about how Miss Eliza saved her baby." More voices joined in. "Not everyone?" Eliza could see Mrs. Patterson and her crew glowering from the edges. But enough. Enough to make a statement. Whitlow's composure cracked. "You people don't understand. She's not what she seems." "No," Jed said quietly. "She's exactly what she seems. A good woman who got dealt a bad hand and made the best of it. A woman who sings my daughters to sleep and teaches them to sew. A woman who brought life back to a house that was dying of grief." He turned to face the crowd fully. "You all want to know what Eliza Barrett is to me. She's family. She's the one who held my Emma when nightmares woke her screaming. She's the one who taught Claire it's all right to laugh again. She's—" His voice roughened. "She's the one who made us whole." The words hung in the air like a declaration. Eliza felt tears streaming down her face. "This is touching," Whitlow said, venom dripping from each word. "But it changes nothing. She still owes me. She owes you nothing." Jed pulled a leather pouch from his pocket, heavy with coin. "But I'll pay whatever she supposedly owes, just to be rid of you." "Money," Whitlow laughed. "You think this is about money?" "No," Jed said. "It's about power, and you've got none here." He gestured to the crowd. "These people know me. Know my word is good. Your word—" He shrugged. "You're just a stranger with a mean mouth and hurt pride." For a moment, Eliza thought Whitlow might actually strike Jed. His hand twitched toward his coat. Did he have a gun? But froze as several men in the crowd shifted forward. "I'd think careful on your next move," Tom Baker said. His massive blacksmith's arms crossed. "We don't take kindly to troublemakers here." Whitlow looked around, perhaps truly seeing the crowd for the first time. Not sophisticated Kansas City society that could be swayed by rumors and innuendo, but frontier people who judged by actions more than words. People who'd seen Eliza's kindness firsthand. "This isn't over," he said finally. "Yes, it is." Jed's voice was iron. "You'll get on your horse and ride out. Tonight, don't come back. Don't write. Don't send others. Eliza Barrett is under my protection, and I protect what's mine." "Yours." Whitlow's laugh was ugly. "She's not your wife. Cross, she's just hired help. What happens when you tire of her, when your bed gets cold enough that even soiled goods look—" The punch came so fast Eliza barely saw it. One moment Whitlow was speaking. The next, he was on the ground, blood streaming from his nose. Jed stood over him, fists clenched. "Say one more word about her." Jed said quietly, "Please, give me the excuse." Whitlow scrambled to his feet, dignity in tatters. "You'll regret this," he snarled, but the threat sounded hollow. He looked around once more at the hostile faces, then stalked toward the hotel. The crowd began to disperse, voices rising in excited chatter. Some nodded to Eliza as they passed, not friendly exactly, but no longer hostile. A beginning. "Miss Eliza—" Claire appeared at her elbow, Emma clinging to her sister's hand. "Are you all right? We saw from Mrs. Chen's shop." "I'm fine, sweetheart." Eliza knelt to embrace both girls, her hands still shaking. "Papa hit that man," Emma said, eyes wide. "Right in the nose." "Sometimes men need hitting," Claire said sagely. "Jimmy Patterson says so." "Despite everything," Eliza laughed. "Let's not tell Jimmy Patterson he was right about something. His head's big enough already." Jed's hand appeared in her vision, offering to help her up. His knuckles were split and bleeding. "Your hand." "Worth it." He helped her stand, but didn't immediately let go. "You all right?" Yes, I think so." She looked into his eyes, seeing concern and anger and something else, something that made her breath catch. "Thank you." "Told you, we protect our own. Is that what I am yours?" The question hung between them, charged with possibility. But before Jed could answer, Reverend Mills approached. "That was quite a scene," he said, but his tone was gentler than Eliza expected. "Mr. Cross, might I have a word?" Jed squeezed Eliza's hand before letting go. "Take the girls home. I'll be along directly." The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Claire and Emma sensed the weight of what had happened, even if they didn't fully understand it. Eliza's mind churned, replaying every moment. Jed's fierce protection, the townsfolk standing up for her, not all, but some, Whitlow's retreat, and that moment when Jed had said she made them whole. At the house, she went through the motions of preparing supper, her hands steady now but her thoughts scattered. The girls helped, their chatter slowly returning to normal. Claire speculated about what the Reverend wanted. Emma showed her doll the blue ribbon they'd bought, telling it a garbled story about Papa hitting the bad man. When Jed finally returned, the sun was setting. He came into the kitchen, hat in hand, looking oddly formal. "Girls, go wash up for supper," he said. Once they were gone, he turned to Eliza. "Reverend Mills had a suggestion about our, situation." "Oh." "He said folks might settle down about you being here if—" He cleared his throat. "If things were more formal, official-like." Eliza's heart sank. "You want me to leave?" What? No. He stepped closer. Just the opposite. He suggested, that is, he thought. He took a deep breath. He thought we should get married. The words hung in the air like struck crystal. Eliza stared at him. Married. For propriety's sake, to shut up the gossips, to make sure Whitlow can't come back with any claim on you. He was talking faster now, almost babbling. It wouldn't have to be. That is, we could keep things as they are. Separate rooms, just a legal arrangement to protect you and satisfy the town and… Jed! She stopped his flow of words. Is that what you want, a marriage of convenience? He looked at her for a long moment. I want you safe. I want my girls happy. I want… He swallowed hard. I want you to stay. That's not what I asked. The kitchen was so quiet she could hear the clock ticking in the parlor. Finally, Jed spoke. No, it's not what I want, but it might be what you need, and that's more important. Before Eliza could respond, Claire burst back in. Papa, we're hungry. Is supper ready? The moment shattered. They ate together as always, but everything felt different, charged, full of unspoken possibilities. That night, after the girls were asleep, Eliza found herself standing in the parlor, staring at Martha's half-finished quilt. The pattern was coming together now, her and Claire's stitches slowly filling in the gaps Martha had left. It's looking good, Jed said from behind her. Claire's getting better every day. She touched a section Claire had completed that afternoon. She has her mother's patience. Martha would be glad to see it being finished. To see… He moved closer. To see the girls happy again. Is that all she'd be glad about? No, he said quietly. I think she'd be glad I found you. She wouldn't have wanted me to stay locked in grief forever. Eliza turned to face him. The Reverend's suggestion was just that, a suggestion. You don't owe me anything. Eliza, not marriage, not staying, not… What if I want to stay? The question seemed to surprise him. Do you… These past months, I've been happier here than I ever was in Kansas. Despite the gossips, despite Whitlow, despite everything. She took a breath. But I won't trap you in a marriage you don't want just for propriety's sake. Trap me? He laughed, but it sounded pained. Eliza, Martha's been gone 3 years. I thought I'd buried my heart with her. Then you showed up, half drowned in my barn, and everything started waking up again. The way you are with the girls, the way you've brought this house back to life, the way He stopped. The way you what? The way I look forward to seeing you every morning. The way your laugh makes something in my chest ease. The way I wanted to kill Whitlow, not just for threatening you, but for making you cry. He met her eyes. That's not convenience talking. Eliza felt her heart racing. Jed, I'm not asking for anything, not pushing, just wanted you to know. Whatever you decide about staying, about marriage, I want it to be your choice, really yours. She looked at him, this good man who'd taken her in without question, who'd defended her honor with his fists, who was offering her freedom even as his eyes begged her to stay. I choose to stay, she said softly. As for the rest, ask me again. When Whitlow is gone and the town has settled, when it's not about protection or propriety, but just us. Just us, he repeated. I like the sound of that. So do I. They stood there in the lamplight, Martha's quilt between them, possibility humming in the air like a prayer about to be answered. Not yet, but soon, when the time was right, when the choice could be about love rather than necessity. Outside, a coyote called to the moon. Inside, the house settled around them, warm and safe and home. The smell of smoke woke her. Eliza sat bolt upright in bed, her heart hammering. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming, caught in one of those nightmares where the past came creeping back. Then the acrid scent hit her nostrils again, stronger now, carried on the night wind through her open window. Fire! She flew from bed, not bothering with a wrapper, and ran to the window. Orange light flickered from the direction of the barn, painting dancing shadows across the yard. "Fire!" she screamed, her voice cracking. "Jed, the barn's on fire." The house erupted into chaos. Jed burst from his room, pulling on his boots as he ran. The girls appeared in their nightgowns, eyes wide with terror. "Stay here," Eliza commanded them. "Don't leave the house." "But Papa," Claire started. "I'll help him. You watch Emma. Promise me." Claire nodded, gathering her sister close. Eliza ran after Jed, her bare feet slipping on the dew-wet grass. The barn was fully engulfed, flames licking hungrily at the sky. The horses were screaming, a sound that would haunt Eliza's dreams for years after. Jed was already at the doors, fighting with the bar that held them closed. "It's jammed," he shouted over the roar of flames. "Someone jammed it." Whitlow. Even in her panic, Eliza knew this was his parting gift. "The side door!" she yelled. They ran around the building. The smaller door stood open, smoke pouring out like black blood. Without thinking, Eliza plunged inside. The heat hit her like a physical blow. Smoke seared her lungs, turned the familiar barn into a hellscape of shadow and flame. She could hear the horses but couldn't see them through the smoke. "Eliza, no," Jed's voice behind her. But she was already moving. Star, Jed's mare, was in the first stall, rearing and screaming. Eliza fumbled with the latch, her fingers clumsy with fear. The metal was already hot enough to burn. "Easy, girl, easy." She got the stall open, and Star bolted past, nearly knocking her down. 2 more stalls. The smoke was getting thicker, pressing down like a living thing. Eliza dropped to her knees, crawling where the air was marginally clearer. The next stall held Buck, the old plow horse. He was pressed against the far wall, eyes rolling white with terror. Eliza hauled herself up, using the stall door for support, and wrestled with another jammed latch. "Come on, come on." The latch gave. Buck needed no encouragement, thundering out toward safety. "One more, just one more." But when she turned to the last stall, her heart seized. This wasn't just any horse. Buttercup? Martha's mare, the one Jed claimed to have sold. The golden mare stood trembling in her stall, sides heaving. She'd been hidden here all along, Jed's secret, his last connection to his dead wife beyond the children. "Oh, you fool man," Eliza whispered, then louder, "All right, pretty girl, we're getting out of here." The flames had reached the hayloft above. Burning debris rained down like hellish snow. A timber crashed down, blocking the way they'd come. The only exit now was through the wall of flame between them and the main doors. Eliza got Buttercup's stall open, but the mare wouldn't move, paralyzed by terror. "Please," Eliza begged. "Please, sweet girl, for Martha, for the girls, move." She grabbed the mare's halter, pulling with all her strength. Buttercup took one step, then another. The smoke was so thick now Eliza could barely see. Her lungs burned. Her nightgown smoldered where embers had landed. Then strong hands were there, taking the halter from her. Jed, his face blackened with soot, his shirt already singed. "Get out," he shouted. "Not without you." "Both of us, then. On 3. They ran together, pulling Buttercup between them, straight toward where the doors should be. The heat was unbearable. Eliza's hair caught fire. She beat at it with one hand while keeping the other on the horse. Then they were through, bursting into the cool night air. Buttercup broke free, galloping toward the other horses huddled at the far end of the pasture. Eliza dropped to her knees, coughing, retching, her throat raw. "Your hair," Jed said, his voice rough. He was on his knees beside her, using his bare hands to put out the last smoldering strands. Your hands! God! Eliza! Your hands! She looked down, confused. Her palms were blistered and raw where she'd grabbed the hot metal latches. Funny, she couldn't feel them yet. The barn, she croaked. Let it burn. His hands framed her face, thumbs wiping away tears she hadn't realized she was crying. Or maybe it was just the smoke. You could have died. Buttercup, you kept her. His laugh was more like a sob. Couldn't do it. Couldn't sell her. Claire doesn't know. I've been keeping her in that back stall, letting her out to pasture at night. Stupid. So stupid. Not stupid. The pain was starting now, rolling up her arms in waves. Love. It was love. Papa, Claire's voice, high and frightened. The girls had disobeyed, of course, and stood at the porch rail. Is Miss Eliza hurt? I'm all right, Eliza called, though her voice came out as barely a whisper. Jed scooped her up like she weighed nothing. Claire, pump water into the big pot and set it to heat. Emma, get the medicine box from my room. Quick now. He carried her inside, setting her gently in the kitchen chair. Her hands were already blistering, angry red welts rising on her palms and fingers. The ends of her hair were singed and brittle. Her nightgown was ruined, peppered with burn holes. This is going to hurt, Jed warned, then plunged her hands into the bucket of cool water Claire had pumped. Eliza bit down on a scream. The girls hovered nearby, Emma clutching her doll, Claire trying to look brave. Will she be all right? Emma whispered. Yes, Jed said firmly. She's the bravest woman I know. She'll be fine. He worked with surprising gentleness, cleaning the burns, applying salve from the medicine box. His own hands were burned too, though not as badly. They'd both have scars from this night. The horses, Eliza managed to say. All safe, thanks to you. He wrapped clean bandages around her palms, including one that wasn't supposed to exist. Are you angry about Buttercup? How could I be angry? You saved her. You saved them all. Claire had been listening with growing excitement. Buttercup, Mama's Buttercup, she's alive. Jed sighed. Yes, sunshine. I couldn't let her go. Oh, Papa. Claire threw her arms around his neck. Can we keep her, please? I think after tonight, we'd better. He hugged his daughter tight, then looked at Eliza over her head. Seems I'm not the only one who has trouble letting go. By dawn, the barn was nothing but smoking ruins. Tom Baker and several other neighbors had arrived too late to save the structure, but helped ensure the fire didn't spread. They'd found evidence of kerosene around the foundation. Definitely arson. Whitlow? Tom asked quietly. Most likely, Jed replied. He left town yesterday after our confrontation. Must have doubled back in the night. Want me to wire the sheriff in Cheyenne? Jed looked at the ruins, then at the house where Eliza rested, the girls refusing to leave her side. What's done is done. He's gone. That's what matters. Tom nodded slowly. Hell of a thing, her running in like that. Not many would have. No, Jed agreed softly. Not many would have. Inside, Eliza dozed fitfully in the chair, her bandaged hands resting in her lap. The laudanum Jed had given her for the pain made everything soft and distant. She was vaguely aware of Claire reading to Emma, of Jed moving quietly around the kitchen, of the sun climbing higher in the sky. You need to sleep properly, Jed said when she stirred. Let me help you to bed. The girls need breakfast, the chores. We'll keep. He knelt beside her chair. Eliza, you saved my horses. You saved Buttercup. You ran into a burning building without a thought for yourself. The least you can do is let me take care of you for once. I'm not good at being taken care of. I noticed. We'll practice. He helped her stand, steadying her when the room spun. Her legs felt like water. The short walk to her room seemed endless. I must look a fright, she mumbled as he helped her sit on the bed. You look like a warrior. He smoothed what was left of her hair back from her face, like one of those Valkyries from the old stories, beautiful and fierce and brave enough to make a man's heart stop. Jed! Sleep now. I'll be here when you wake. She wanted to protest, to say she was fine. She didn't need coddling, but the laudanum was pulling her under, and his hand was gentle on her forehead, and, for once in her life, it felt good to let someone else be strong. When she woke, afternoon shadows slanted across the floor. Her hands throbbed in time with her heartbeat. Someone had changed her out of the ruined nightgown and into a clean shift. Claire, probably, with that careful competence that broke Eliza's heart. You're awake. Emma's face appeared beside the bed. Papa said to let you sleep, but I wanted to show you. She held up a piece of paper covered in shaky letters. I wrote my name all by myself. Bye. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Eliza's voice came out rough as sandpaper. Claire helped a little, but mostly I did it. Emma climbed carefully onto the bed, curling against Eliza's side. Does it hurt your hands? A little. Papa's hands hurt too. He burned them getting Buttercup out. Emma played with the edge of the quilt. He said you were brave like Mama. Oh, Eliza's chest tightened. Mama saved me once, when I was a baby. There was a snake in my cradle and she grabbed it with her bare hands and threw it out the window. Emma looked up at her with those solemn dark eyes. Papa says that's what love does. Makes you brave enough to grab snakes or run into fires. Eliza felt tears slip down her cheeks. From the doorway, she heard Jed clear his throat. Emma, let Miss Eliza rest now. But Papa, I'm being very gentle. I know, little bird, but she needs quiet to heal. Emma gave Eliza a careful kiss on the cheek before scampering out. Jed took her place on the edge of the bed, a cup of broth in his hands. You need to eat something. I'm not an invalid. No, you're a hero. Heroes need to eat too. He helped her sit up, piling pillows behind her. Can you hold the cup? She tried, but her bandaged hands wouldn't cooperate. Without comment, Jed held it to her lips, letting her sip slowly. This is embarrassing, she muttered between sips. This is necessary. He set the empty cup aside. How's the pain? Manageable. Liar. That startled a laugh out of her. All right. It hurts like the very devil. Better. He produced a bottle from his pocket. More laudanum. In a bit, I want a clear head for a moment. She studied his face, seeing the exhaustion there, the worry. The barn's gone. Completely, but the horses are safe. That's what matters. It was Whitlow. I know. He could have killed us all. But he didn't, because you were brave enough to act. His hand found hers, careful of the bandages. Eliza, what you did tonight. Anyone would have... No. His voice was fierce. Anyone wouldn't have. I've known men who'd watch their own house burn rather than risk themselves. But you ran into hell itself for horses that weren't even yours, for Buttercup, who you'd never even met. She was Martha's. She mattered to you, to the girls. That's what I mean. He lifted her bandaged hand to his lips, pressing the gentlest kiss to her fingertips. You could have died tonight. The thought of losing you. Jed! I know I said to wait, until things were settled, until it could be about us and not necessity. His eyes met hers, blue as prairie sky. But almost losing you tonight made me realize something. There's never a perfect time. There's just time. And what we choose to do with it. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you. Eliza Barrett. I'm saying that watching you run into that fire was the most terrifying and magnificent thing I've ever seen. I'm saying that if you'll have me, I want to marry you. Not for propriety or protection or any other damned reason, except that I can't imagine facing another day without knowing you're mine and I'm yours. The room was so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. Or maybe that was his. I must look awful, she said inanely. Singed hair and bandages and— You look like everything I never knew I needed. He cupped her face gently. But if you need time, if you're not ready— Jed Cross, she interrupted. I ran into a burning building for your horses. Do you really think I need more time to know what I want? Is that a yes? That's a yes. His kiss was gentle, mindful of her injuries. But she could feel the banked fire in it, the promise of more when she was healed. When they parted, both were breathless. Claire's going to be insufferable, Eliza murmured against his lips. She's been planning our wedding for weeks. Emma, too. She asked me yesterday if you could be her mama for real. What did you tell her? That I was working on it. He rested his forehead against hers. Looks like I can tell her it worked. EJD. Claire's voice from the hallway. Is Miss Eliza awake? Can we show her what we made? What did you make? Eliza called. The girls tumbled in, carrying a crown woven from prairie flowers and grass. It's for you, Emma announced. Since you're a hero, a fire hero, Claire added, like in the stories. They placed the crown carefully on Eliza's singed hair. It was lopsided and already wilting, and it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever worn. Perfect, Jed said softly, and she knew he wasn't talking about the crown. That night, with her hands freshly bandaged and the laudanum making everything soft, Eliza lay in bed listening to the sounds of her family preparing for sleep. Claire singing to Emma, Jed checking the locks, banking the fire. Normal sounds made precious by how close they'd come to losing everything. Tomorrow there would be challenges, the barn to rebuild, the town to face, wedding plans to make. But tonight, she was safe and loved and home. The last thing she heard before sleep took her was Jed's voice through the wall, low and reverent. Thank you for bringing her to us. Thank you for keeping her safe. Thank you for giving us another chance at happiness. A prayer of gratitude, a promise of tomorrow. And despite the pain in her hands, and the smell of smoke that still clung to everything, Eliza smiled. The letter was hidden in Martha's sewing box, tucked beneath spools of thread and forgotten thimbles. Eliza found it while searching for stronger thread to finish the quilt. Her hands had healed enough in the 2 weeks since the fire to manage careful stitching, though the scars would always remain. She almost missed the envelope entirely, its edges worn soft with age. Asterisk. For my husband, asterisk was written across the front in careful script. The seal was unbroken. Eliza stared at it for a long moment. This wasn't hers to read, but something about it, the way it had been hidden rather than given, the slight tremor in the handwriting made her uneasy. What did you find? Claire asked from her spot on the floor where she was practicing her letters. Just some old thread, Eliza said, slipping the letter into her pocket. Why don't you show Emma how well you're doing with your cursive? That evening, after the girls were abed and the house had settled into quiet, Eliza found Jed on the porch. The framework of the new barn rose against the stars. The neighbors had been helping him rebuild, and it was coming along quickly. I found something today, she said without preamble, holding out the letter. Jed went very still, in the lamplight spilling from the window. She watched the color drain from his face. Where? Martha's sewing box, hidden. She sat beside him on the bench. You knew it was there. I suspected. She was writing something those last days. Kept hiding it when I came in. He turned the envelope over in his hands, but made no move to open it. After she died, I looked but couldn't find it. Figured maybe I'd imagined it. The fever made her do strange things toward the end. You never looked in the sewing box? Couldn't bear to too many memories. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm afraid to read it. Why? What if she blamed me? What if her last words were about how I failed her? His voice cracked. I failed her. Eliza, I couldn't save her. Couldn't even ease her passing. She died afraid and in pain and— Stop! Eliza put her hand over his. Whatever's in that letter, it doesn't change who you are. Doesn't change the love you gave her or the family you built together. But what if— Then we face it together. That's what we do now. Isn't it face things together? Jed looked at her. This woman who'd run into fire for his horses, who'd taken on his broken family and helped piece them back together. His wife-to-be. If Reverend Mills ever returned from his trip to Denver. Together, he agreed, and broke the seal. The letter was short, the handwriting deteriorating as it went on. Jed read it silently first, his expression cycling through confusion, pain, and something like wonder. Then, voice rough, he read it aloud. Asterisk, my dearest Jedediah. Asterisk, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and you found the courage to look where I knew you would not, while grief was fresh, always so predictable. My love, you never could bear to touch my sewing after I pricked your finger that first time. Asterisk, I need you to know the truth. The doctor was kind to say it was childbed fever, but we both know that's not all it was. The darkness came for me after Claire was born, and it came again with Emma. Stronger and meaner than before. The voices that whisper, I'm no good as a mother. The weight that makes rising from bed feel like climbing a mountain. The terrible thoughts that say my babies would be better without me. Asterisk, I tried to fight it. God knows I tried, but I'm so tired. Jed, and now with this fever, I feel myself slipping away, and part of me, the part I hate, is grateful. Asterisk, please don't blame yourself. You've been the best husband any woman could want. You loved me even when I couldn't love myself. But I see the truth now. At the end, I wasn't meant for this life. I'm too fragile for the frontier, too weak for motherhood. I love our girls with everything in me. But love isn't always enough. Is it, Asterisk? Asterisk, promise me you'll find someone strong. Someone who can be the mother I couldn't be. Someone who'll love you and our babies with a fierce, protective love that doesn't break under pressure. And when you do, don't feel guilty. Don't mourn me forever. Be happy. My love, that's all I ever wanted for you. Asterisk, tell the girls their mother loved them. Tell them every day, even if I couldn't always show it the way they deserved. Asterisk, forever yours. Asterisk, Martha, asterisk. The silence stretched between them, heavy with revelation. Finally! Jed folded the letter with shaking hands. She knew. He whispered, all this time. I thought, but she knew it wasn't her fault. The darkness. She called it melancholia, Eliza said softly. I have seen it before. Women who can't find joy even in their own babies. It's a sickness, just like any other. I should have seen it, should have helped her. You loved her. Sometimes that's all we can do. Eliza touched the letter. She wanted you to be happy, wanted you to find someone strong. Jed laughed, but it sounded like crying. And I found you, running into burning barns, facing down gossips and scoundrels, singing my girls to sleep. He turned to look at her. She would have liked you, I think, would have been grateful to know you're here. I'm honored to follow her, to care for what she loved. You're not following anyone, Jed said fiercely. You're writing your own story with us. Martha was my past, you're my future. Both true, both important, but not the same. They sat together as the night deepened, the letter between them like a bridge between what was and what would be. Finally, Eliza spoke again. We should tell Claire, not everything, but she remembers her mother being sad. It might help her to know it was an illness. Tomorrow, Jed agreed. Tonight, I just want to sit here with you and feel grateful. For what? For Martha's honesty, for the girls she gave me, for you saying yes to a broken-down cowboy with too much baggage. He slipped an arm around her shoulders. For second chances. The next morning brought a surprise. Reverend Mills's wagon rolled into the yard just after breakfast. And he wasn't alone. A woman sat beside him, plump, pleasant-faced, with steel-gray hair and kind eyes. Mrs. Henderson, the Reverend said by way of introduction. My sister from Denver. She's a midwife and... He cleared his throat. She's agreed to stay with you, Miss Barrett, until the wedding, for propriety's sake. Eliza and Jed exchanged glances. They'd been living under the same roof for months now, with no chaperone but the children. That's very kind, Eliza said carefully. Mrs. Henderson climbed down from the wagon with surprising agility. Nonsense. I wanted to come. Haven't seen a good frontier wedding in ages. She winked at Eliza. Besides, someone needs to help you with your dress. Can't have you getting married in calico. We haven't set a date, Jed began. Saturday, Reverend Mills interrupted. If that suits, I can only stay a week before I need to get back to Denver. Saturday, Eliza repeated, 4 days away. That's soon. Too soon, Jed asked quietly. She looked at him, remembering the letter, the fire, all the days of building this life together. No, not too soon at all. The next days passed in a whirlwind. Mrs. Henderson took charge with the efficiency of a general planning a campaign. She'd brought fabric from Denver, soft blue wool that brought out Eliza's eyes, and set about creating a wedding dress with help from Mrs. Chen. Never thought I'd see the day. Mrs., Chen said, pinning a hem while Eliza stood on a box in the parlor. Jed Cross taking another wife, but you're good for him. Good for those girls. Claire and Emma watched the proceedings with fascination. Claire had appointed herself wedding planner, making lists of things needed. Flowers, cake, music, ribbons for Emma's hair, new shoes if Papa says we can afford them. Don't need new shoes, Emma protested, then whispered to Eliza. Do I? We'll see what we can do, Eliza promised. The evening before the wedding, Eliza found herself finishing Martha's quilt. The last stitches were hers alone. Claire had declared it should be Eliza who completed it. As she tied off the final thread, she felt a sense of completion that went beyond the quilt itself. It's beautiful, Jed said from the doorway. Martha would be so pleased. It's for Emma, like Martha wanted. No. He came closer, running his hand over the careful stitches. It's for all of us, past and present, sewn together into something new. That night, with Mrs. Henderson snoring in the room next door, propriety was apparently exhausting. Eliza lay wakeful, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. From the desperate woman in the storm to a beloved member of this family. Tomorrow she would be Eliza Cross. The thought filled her with a joy so sharp it was almost painful. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Miss Eliza? Claire's voice, muffled through the door. Can I come in? Of course, sweetheart. Claire padded in, Emma trailing behind her with the inevitable doll. They climbed onto the bed, one on each side of Eliza. Can't sleep, she asked. Too excited. Claire said, Tomorrow you'll be our real mother. I felt like your real mother for a while now, Eliza said carefully. I know, but tomorrow it's official, legal, no one can make you leave. There it was, the fear that lurked beneath Claire's competence. Eliza gathered both girls close. Listen to me. Law or no law, wedding or no wedding, I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. Promise, Emma whispered. Promise. Mama used to say that too, Claire said quietly. But she left anyway. Your mama didn't want to leave. She was sick, and her body couldn't fight anymore. Eliza chose her words carefully. But she loved you both so much. And I think she'd be happy knowing you have someone to love you now. Papa showed us the letter, Claire said. The one Mama wrote. He said she had an illness in her mind that made her sad. That's right. I remember her being sad. She'd cry sometimes when she thought we weren't looking. Claire's voice was very small. I thought it was my fault, that I wasn't good enough. Oh, sweetheart, no, never think that. Your mama's sadness was nobody's fault. It was just something that happened, like when people get pneumonia or break a bone. But you're not sad like that. No, I have sad days sometimes. Everyone does. But not the kind of sadness that takes over. Emma had been quiet, but now she spoke up. Will you still love us even when we're naughty? Especially when you're naughty, Eliza assured her. That's when you need love most. They lay together in the dark, listening to the wind outside and Mrs. Henderson's continued snoring. Finally, Claire spoke again. I'm glad you're marrying Papa. He smiles more now. Real smiles, not the pretend ones he used to do. I'm glad too. And Miss Eliza, can we call you Mama after tomorrow? Eliza's throat closed with emotion. I would be honored. The wedding day dawned clear and bright. Unusual for late autumn in Wyoming. The whole community had turned out, even Mrs. Patterson, though she looked like she'd been sucking lemons. The ceremony would be simple, held in the yard of the ranch with the mountains as backdrop. Eliza stood in her room, letting Mrs. Henderson fuss with her hair. The blue dress fit perfectly, and someone, Claire, probably had woven late wildflowers into a crown. You look beautiful, Mrs. Henderson said, stepping back. Nervous? No, Eliza said, surprised to find it was true. I've never been more certain of anything. A knock at the door made them both turn. Tom Baker stood there, hat in hand. Begging your pardon, Miss Eliza, but I was wondering. Well, that is, the men and I were talking, and seeing as you don't have family here, he cleared his throat. Would you like someone to walk you down, give you away proper-like? Tears pricked Eliza's eyes. That's very kind, Tom, but I'll do it. Everyone turned. Claire stood in the doorway, wearing her best dress and a determined expression. I'll walk with you, she said. Me and Emma, we're your family now, so we should be the ones. And so it was that Eliza Barrett walked to her wedding with a child on each side. While the fiddler played and the whole town watched, Jed waited at the makeshift altar, looking uncomfortable in his Sunday suit but smiling like the sun itself. Who gives this woman to be married? Reverend Mills asked. We do, Claire and Emma chorused, then ran to stand by their father. The ceremony was brief. Frontier folk didn't hold with long speeches. But when Jed said his vows, his voice was steady and sure. And when Eliza promised to love, honor, and cherish, she meant every word with a fierceness that would have surprised her younger self. You may kiss your bride, Reverend Mills said with a smile. The kiss was sweet and brief, mindful of the audience, but full of promise. When they parted, Jed whispered, Hello, Mrs. Cross. Hello, Mr. Cross, she whispered back. The celebration that followed was lively and warm. Tables groaned with food the neighbors had brought. The fiddler played dancing tunes. Even the horses, including Buttercup, wore ribbons in their manes courtesy of the girls. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, Eliza found herself standing apart for a moment, watching her new family. Claire was teaching Emma a dance step. Jed was laughing at something Tom had said. Mrs. Chen was cutting the cake she'd insisted on making. No regrets, Mrs. Henderson asked, joining her. None, Eliza said. Not one. That night, after the guests had gone and the girls were tucked in bed in their own room, with many giggles about Mama and Papa being married now, Eliza and Jed sat on their bed. The Martha's quilt, now truly theirs, lay folded at the foot. Are you happy? Jed asked softly. More than I knew was possible. She leaned against his shoulder. I feel whole. For the first time in 3 years, I feel whole." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Thank you." "For what?" "For saying yes, for taking on this ready-made family, for being brave enough to love us." "Jed Cross," she said, turning to face him fully. "Loving you and those girls is the easiest thing I've ever done. The brave part was letting myself be loved in return. And now I'm home." Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall, blanketing the ranch in pristine white. Inside, the house was warm and full of love. A different love than what had been before, but no less real for being second. On the kitchen table, Martha's letter lay in its envelope, a bridge between past and future. Tomorrow they would put it away, keep it for the girls when they were older. But tonight was for the living, for new beginnings, for the promise of all the tomorrows to come. And in her daughter's room, Emma slept peacefully under a wedding ring quilt, completed at last by many hands, warmed by the love stitched into every thread. The telegram arrived on a bitter February morning, 2 months after the wedding. Eliza was kneading bread dough when Claire burst through the door, cheeks red from the cold and eyes wide with alarm. "Mama, there's a man from town. He has a paper for Papa." Through the frosted window, Eliza could see the telegraph operator's boy stamping his feet on the porch, looking miserable in the wind. Jed emerged from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern as he took the yellow paper. Eliza watched his face change as he read, confusion, then shock, then something that looked like fear. "What is it?" she asked, stepping onto the porch despite the cold. Jed handed her the telegram with trembling fingers. The words were stark in their simplicity. Asterisk custody petition filed. Stop Judge Harlan presiding. Stop hearing March 15th. Stop bring children. Stop Morrison. Attorney asterisk. "I don't understand." Eliza said, "Custody petition, who would?" "Martha's father." Jed's voice was hollow. "Samuel Thornton, he never approved of me marrying Martha. Said I wasn't good enough. After she died, he wanted to take the girls, but I refused. Thought he'd given up." But why now, after all this time? Jed met her eyes, and she saw the answer there, because now there was something to use against him. A wife with a questionable past, the town gossip that had never quite died, the fire that could be twisted to seem like negligence. "He's heard about you," Jed said quietly. "About the rumors. He'll use it to say I'm an unfit father." Claire, who had been listening from the doorway, let out a cry. "No, we're not going anywhere. Tell them. Papa, tell them we're staying." Emma appeared behind her sister, doll clutched tight. "Mama," her voice was tiny, frightened. "Are we going away?" Eliza pulled both girls close. "No one is going anywhere," she said firmly, though her heart was racing. "Your papa and I will fix this." But even as she said it, she wondered how. Samuel Thornton had money, influence, connections in Denver where the hearing would be held. They had love and determination, but would that be enough? That night, after the girls were in bed, Eliza and Jed sat at the kitchen table, the telegram between them like a snake. "Tell me about Samuel," Eliza said. Jed rubbed his face, looking older than his years. "He owns half of Denver, near enough, banks, hotels, shipping companies. Martha was his only child. When she chose me," he shrugged. "He cut her off completely. Didn't even come to the wedding. Only saw the girls once, right after Claire was born. Said she looked too much like me to be worth knowing. Charming man." Martha used to cry about it, how her father couldn't see past money and status. She wrote him when she got sick, begging him to forgive, to know his granddaughters. He never answered. And now he wants them. He's remarried. I heard, young wife who can't have children of her own. Probably wants ready-made heirs. Jed's voice turned bitter. And he's got ammunition now. The respectable widower rancher marrying a woman from a brothel. His lawyers will make it sound like I've lost my mind. Eliza reached across the table, taking his hands. Then we fight. We get our own lawyer. We gather witnesses who can speak to our character, our home, how happy the girls are. With what money lawyers cost, Eliza, good ones cost more, and Samuel has the best. She was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then I have some money saved. From before. Not much, but no. Jed's refusal was immediate. That's your security. Your freedom money. I won't take it. Jedediah Cross, you listen to me. Her voice was steel. Those girls are my daughters now, in every way that matters. Their security is my security. Their freedom is my freedom. We're family, and families fight together. His throat worked. Eliza? No arguments. Tomorrow we go to town, find a lawyer, and start building our case. Samuel Thornton may have money, but we have something he doesn't. What's that? The truth, and 2 little girls who'll fight like wildcats before they'll leave their home. The lawyer they found was not encouraging. Mr. Josiah Hartwell was young, earnest, and honest about their chances. Mrs. Cross, I won't lie to you, he said, polishing his spectacles nervously. Your past will be a significant obstacle. Mr. Thornton's attorneys will paint a picture of moral corruption, of danger to the children. But I never, Eliza began. I know, and we'll make that clear. But judges, they're political creatures, and Mr. Thornton has political influence. He shuffled papers on his desk. Our best strategy is character witnesses. Lots of them. People who can testify to your reformation, your maternal care, the stability of your home. The whole town knows. Some of the town, Hartwell corrected. We need the others, the ones who've seen you with the children, who can speak to specific instances of your good character. Over the next weeks, they gathered their army. Mrs. Chen agreed to testify immediately. Tom Baker and several other neighbors signed affidavits. Even Reverend Mills, back from Denver, promised to speak on their behalf. The surprise came from Mrs. Patterson. She appeared at their door on a sleeting March morning, lips pursed and chin high. I suppose you'll be needing character witnesses, she said without preamble. Eliza blinked. Mrs. Patterson. Don't look so shocked. I may not approve of your past, but I've watched you these months, seen how you are with those children, seen how you've brought light back to this house. She sniffed. Samuel Thornton is a cold, money-grubbing snake who didn't even attend his daughter's funeral. Whatever else you may be, Mrs. Cross, you're a better parent than he could ever be. Thank you, Eliza managed. Don't thank me. Just win. She turned to go, then paused. And that little Emma told my Margaret that you're teaching her to read using Bible stories. That shows proper moral guidance. Make sure the judge knows that. As March 15th approached, the house took on a siege mentality. Claire had nightmares. Creeping into their bed in the small hours, Emma went silent again, following Eliza everywhere like a tiny shadow. Even Buttercup seemed nervous, whinnying whenever anyone approached. The night before they were to leave for Denver, Eliza found Claire in the barn, brushing Buttercup with fierce concentration. Sweetheart, I won't go. Claire didn't look up. If the judge says we have to live with grandfather, I'll run away. I'll hide in the mountains. Claire. Eliza took the brush gently, turning the girl to face her. Look at me. Claire's face was streaked with tears. He doesn't even know us, doesn't know that Emma's afraid of the dark or that I like my eggs scrambled but not runny, doesn't know that Papa tells us stories about Mama every Sunday or that you sing us to sleep when we're sick. I know, baby, I know. Why does he want us if he doesn't love us? How to explain pride and possession in the way some people saw children as property? I don't know. But I do know this. Your papa and I will fight for you with everything we have. And if somehow we lose... Don't say that. If we lose, Eliza continued firmly, we'll keep fighting. We'll appeal. We'll never stop trying to bring you home. You are our daughters. Claire, mine and your papa's. No judge can change that. Claire threw her arms around Eliza's waist, sobbing. Eliza held her tight, praying to whatever powers might listen that she could keep this promise. The courthouse in Denver was an imposing building of red brick and limestone, designed to intimidate. It worked. Eliza felt very small as they climbed the steps, Claire and Emma clutching her hands. The courtroom was already filling when they arrived. Their supporters had come, a small army of ranchers and townfolk who'd made the journey to stand witness. On the other side sat Samuel Thornton, silver-haired and severe in an expensive suit. The young woman beside him, his new wife, presumably wore silk and diamonds and an expression of polite boredom. "Don't look at them," Jed murmured. "They don't matter." But they did matter. They had money and power and the ear of the judge, who was already reviewing papers with a frown. The hearing began with Thornton's lawyer painting a picture of degradation and scandal. Eliza forced herself to remain still as her past was dissected, twisted, made to sound sordid and dangerous. According to them, she was barely better than a common prostitute, certainly not fit to raise innocent children. And this fire, the lawyer continued smoothly, started under mysterious circumstances. One has to wonder, was it perhaps a former associate of Mrs. Cross, someone from her past life come to collect debts? "Objection," Hartwell said. "Speculation." "Sustained," the judge said, but the damage was done. The seed of doubt was planted. Their turn came after lunch. Hartwell did his best. Truly he did. Character witness after character witness spoke of Eliza's kindness, her dedication to the children, the happiness of the home. Reverend Mills gave particularly moving testimony about the wedding and the family's clear bond. Then came the moment Eliza had dreaded. "Mrs. Cross," Thornton's lawyer said, rising for cross-examination. "Is it true you lived and worked in a house of prostitution in Kansas City?" "I worked as a maid and child care provider. In a brothel, yes or no?" Eliza lifted her chin. "Yes, I worked in a brothel. I scrubbed floors and washed sheets and minded the children of women who had few other options. I kept myself apart from the business of the house, and I left when the owner tried to force me into that life." "So you say. But can you prove you never participated?" "Can you prove I did?" The lawyer smiled coldly. "The burden of proof is on you, Mrs. Cross. You must prove you're fit to raise these children." "Then look at them," Eliza said, her voice growing stronger. "Look at my daughters. Claire can read and write better than most children her age. Emma has gone from a silent, terrified child to one who laughs and plays. They're healthy, happy, loved. What more proof do you need?" Pretty words. "Mama's teaching me to sew." Emma's voice piped up suddenly. "And she makes the best biscuits, and she sings all the songs right. Not like Mrs. Holbrook, who forgets the middle parts." "Emma, hush," the judge said, but not unkindly. "She's our mama," Emma continued, undeterred. "She reads us stories and fixes our dresses and holds us when we're scared. That's what mamas do." Claire stood up beside her sister. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The judge looked surprised. "This is irregular." "Please," Claire said. "It's our lives you're deciding. Don't we get a say?" After a moment, the judge nodded. "Very well, but briefly, young lady." Claire took a deep breath. "My grandfather never wanted us when Mama was alive. Never visited, never wrote, never cared that we existed. But Eliza, she chose us. She didn't have to stay when people were mean to her. She didn't have to run into a burning barn to save our horses. She didn't have to learn all our favorite foods or fix Mama's quilt or hold us during thunderstorms. But she did, because she loves us. Her voice rose, fierce and determined. And we love her. She's our mama now. And if you try to take us away, we'll just keep running back home. Every time, forever. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You fight for them. The courtroom was silent. Even Thornton's lawyer seemed at a loss for words. Finally, the judge cleared his throat. I'll need time to consider. Court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. That night, in their hotel room, nobody slept much. The girls curled between Eliza and Jed like they had during those first frightened weeks, seeking comfort and closeness. Whatever happens, Jed whispered over their heads, I'm proud of you. All of you. We're going to win. Claire said firmly, We have to. But when morning came and they filed back into the courtroom, the judge's expression was unreadable. I've reviewed the testimony and evidence, he began. This is a difficult case. On one hand, we have grandparents of means who can provide material advantages. On the other, we have a home where the children are clearly loved, but where the moral questions... He paused, and Eliza's heart sank. However, the judge continued, I cannot ignore the clear wishes of the children themselves, nor can I ignore the testimony of an entire community who came here to support this family. He looked directly at Thornton. Mr. Thornton, you had 3 years to claim these children. You chose not to. Now, when they have found happiness and stability, you seek to uproot them for what appears to be pride rather than love. He turned to Eliza and Jed. Mr. and Mrs. Cross, while I have concerns about the unusual circumstances of your meeting and marriage, I cannot deny the evidence before me. These children are thriving in your care. They are loved, they are wanted, and they have made their wishes abundantly clear. The gavel came down with finality. Petition for custody is denied. The minor children shall remain with their father and stepmother. Case dismissed. The courtroom erupted. Claire shrieked with joy, throwing herself at Eliza. Emma burst into tears of relief. Their supporters cheered. Thornton's face went purple with rage, but his lawyer was already ushering him out. We won, Emma asked, as if she couldn't quite believe it. We really won. We really won, Eliza confirmed, tears streaming down her face. I told you, Claire said smugly. Love always wins. Mama taught me that. Outside the courthouse, in the crisp Denver air, their friends and neighbors gathered around with congratulations. But Eliza only had eyes for her family, her husband, her daughters, her home. Ready to go home? Jed asked, his arm around her shoulders. I've been home, Eliza said, looking at the 3 faces that had become her whole world. Home is wherever you are. As they loaded into the wagon for the journey back to the ranch, Claire began planning a celebration. Emma chattered about showing her doll the new dress Eliza had promised to make. Jed held the reins with one hand and Eliza's hand with the other. Behind them, Denver and all its threats faded into the distance. Ahead lay the Cross Creek Ranch, with its new barn and old memories, its daily rhythms and simple joys. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There would still be hard times, cold winters, those who would never accept Eliza's past. But it was their ending, earned through fire and tears and fierce, protective love, and that made it perfect. Mama, Emma said sleepily as the wagon rocked along. Will you sing the angel song? So Eliza sang, her voice carrying across the prairie, a song of angels watching through the night. Claire joined in. Then Jed in his rumbling bass, a family chorus, heading home together, forever and always. The telegram that had threatened to destroy them lay forgotten in Jed's pocket, already beginning to fade. But the love that had defeated it, that would last forever, stitched into their lives as surely as the threads in Martha's quilt, binding past and present into something beautiful and whole. *50 years later*. Margaret Cross Williams closed her grandmother's journal with trembling hands, tears streaming down her face. The leather-bound book, worn soft with age, contained the story she'd just finished reading to her own daughter on this cold December evening in 1929. "So Grandma Eliza wasn't your real grandmother?" little Sarah asked, curled up beside her mother on the parlor sofa. "Oh, sweetheart," Margaret said, smoothing her daughter's hair. "She was as real a grandmother as anyone could have. Blood doesn't make family, love does." Through the window, she could see the old Cross Creek Ranch, now expanded into one of the largest cattle operations in Wyoming. The original house still stood, carefully maintained, smoke curling from the same chimney that had welcomed a desperate woman in a storm 50 years ago. "Tell me more about them," Sarah begged. "About Great-Grandpa Jed and Grandma Eliza, the real stories, not just what's in the journal." Margaret smiled, settling back into memories. "Well, let me think. Grandma Eliza always said their love story wasn't like the fairy tales. It started with need, grew through hardship, and became something stronger than either of them expected." She remembered her grandmother, not the young woman from the journal, but the silver-haired matriarch who'd raised 7 children in that old house. Besides Aunt Emma and Margaret's mother Claire, there had been 5 more Cross children, sturdy boys and spirited girls who'd grown up knowing they were cherished. "Grandpa Jed lived to be 78, Margaret continued. "He died in 1924, holding Grandma's hand, still calling her the bravest woman he'd ever known. She followed him just 6 months later, said she'd waited 50 years to see him again and wasn't about to wait longer." "That's sad," Sarah said. "No, baby. It was beautiful. They had 50 years together, 50 years of Sunday dinners and harvest seasons, of children and grandchildren, of quiet evenings on that same porch where they'd first talked about the future." Margaret stood, walking to the mantelpiece where photographs lined up like soldiers of memory. There was one of Jed and Eliza on their 25th wedding anniversary, surrounded by their children, another of Claire at her own wedding, Eliza adjusting her veil with those scarred hands that had saved the horses so long ago. "Your great-aunt Emma became a teacher," Margaret said, touching a photo of a serious-faced woman in spectacles. "Never married, but she mothered half the children in 3 counties. Said Grandma Eliza taught her that there were many ways to love and nurture." "And your mama?" "My mother Claire became a writer, published 3 novels about frontier women. Always said Grandma Eliza showed her that women could be strong and soft at the same time, could have complicated pasts and still deserve happy ending." Sarah was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, "What about the mean man, Charles? Whitlow, huh?" Margaret's expression darkened slightly. "He disappeared after the fire. Some say he went to California, tried his schemes there. Others say he met a bad end in a poker game. Grandma Eliza never spoke of him. Said some ghosts were better left buried. And the grandfather who tried to take them away. Samuel Thornton died alone and bitter 5 years after the custody hearing. His young wife took his money and went back east. He never tried to contact Mom or Aunt Emma again." Margaret shook her head. "Grandma always said hatred was its own punishment." She was right. The clock chimed 9, and Sarah yawned. "One more story, please." "All right, one more." Margaret returned to the sofa, pulling her daughter close. "Let me tell you about the garden." The garden in the journal where they buried the letter. "That's the one. Grandma Eliza turned that little patch into the most beautiful garden in Wyoming. Flowers and vegetables all mixed together, beauty and practicality side by side. Just like her, every spring, she'd plant something new. Said gardens were like families. They needed tending, patience, and love to flourish." Margaret smiled at the memory. "When I was your age, she'd take me out there and teach me the names of all the plants. This one for remembrance, that one for hope. And in the center, where they'd buried Martha's letter, she planted a rose bush. Said it was for promises kept and love that transcends time." "Is it still there, the garden?" "It is. Your Uncle James maintains it now. Every crossed child learned to tend that garden. Grandma said it was important to know how to nurture growing things, whether they were plants or people or dreams. Sarah snuggled deeper into her mother's embrace. I'm glad she found them. Grandma Eliza and Great-Grandpa and Mom Claire and Aunt Emma. I'm glad they all found each other. So am I, sweetheart. So am I. Later, after Sarah was tucked in bed, Margaret returned to the journal. There was one entry she hadn't read aloud, written in Eliza's shaky hand near the end of her life. They ask me sometimes, the young ones, if I regret the path that led me here, if I wish I'd had an easier road, a simpler story. But how can I regret the very things that brought me to my destiny? Every hardship, every cruel word, every cold night led me to that barn in the storm, led me to Jed and my girls and the life we built together. Asterisk, I was not born Eliza Cross. I became her through fire and struggle and the fierce love of a family that chose me as I chose them. Martha gave them life, but I gave them roots. And in return, they gave me everything: purpose, belonging, unconditional love, and a legacy that will outlive us all. Asterisk, to those who come after, who might read this someday, know this love doesn't always arrive on a white horse. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the midst of a storm, wearing the face of duty before revealing itself as devotion. Sometimes it grows slowly, like a garden, requiring daily tending before it blooms. Asterisk, but love that is chosen, fought for and renewed each day, that love can weather any storm, survive any fire, overcome any challenge. That love becomes the stuff of legend, even when it starts with something as simple as a man saying, I need a mother for my girls, and you need shelter. Asterisk. Asterisk, trust in love, fight for family, and never, ever be afraid to begin again. Asterisk. Eliza Barrett Cross, Spring 1924. Asterisk. Margaret closed the journal again, holding it to her chest. Outside, snow began to fall, dusting the Wyoming landscape in pristine white. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its mate, and the answer came swift and sure across the prairie. The old house settled around her with familiar creaks and sighs, full of ghosts and memories and love that had outlasted its creators. In the kitchen, the same old clock that had ticked through Jed and Eliza's first awkward dinner still kept time. On the mantel, photographs told the story of a family that began in desperation and grew into dynasty. Tomorrow, Margaret would take Sarah to the ranch, would show her the spot where the old barn had stood, the garden that still bloomed, the porch where so many important conversations had taken place, would tell her more stories of the grandmother who'd saved them all with her courage and her scarred hands and her infinite capacity to love. But tonight, she simply sat in the lamplight, grateful for the woman who'd run into a burning barn 50 years ago and, in doing so, had saved not just horses but the entire future of the Cross family. Thank you, Grandma, she whispered to the winter night. Thank you for showing us that families aren't just born. They're made, one choice at a time, one day at a time, with threads of love stronger than any blood tie could ever be. And somewhere in the Wyoming wind, Margaret could swear she heard an answer, a whisper of song about angels watching through the night, protecting all they loved until the morning light. The legacy of Eliza and Jed Cross lived on, proof that love born of necessity could grow into something eternal. Their story, begun in a storm and tested by fire, had become the foundation upon which generations would build their own tales of courage, devotion, and the enduring power of choosing to love against all odds. In the end, that was their greatest gift, not the ranch that prospered or the children who thrived, but the proof that broken people could come together and create something whole, something beautiful, something that would echo through time like a love song on the prairie wind. The storm that brought them together had long since passed, but the love it sparked burned on, eternal as the Wyoming stars, warm as the hearth that had welcomed a desperate woman home. Thank you so much for listening to this story of love, redemption, and family on the American frontier. I hope Eliza and Jed's journey touched your heart as it did mine. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening to this story. Please share in the comments below so we can connect and discuss what this tale meant to you. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to Wild West Night for more tales of courage and romance from the Old West. Give this video a like and hit that hype button to help more people discover these powerful stories of the human spirit. Until next time, partners.